Good morning, everyone. Morning to the people watching live. May this word bless you. We've had an awesome time in worship this morning and can already feel God's presence here. And I know this is going to be a good morning. So thank you for watching and may this bless you.
Amen.
So I just want to, in the week I posted this photo in the group. It's one of John G. Lake. He made the quote. He said, "When a Christian tries to live by reason, he is moving out of God's country into the enemy's land. We belong in the miraculous and the supernatural realm." Okay, so not in reason, but in this miraculous and in the supernatural.
Amen.
Now this morning I'm going to speak on you can do the supernatural, or you were called to live and manifest the supernatural. Okay, so, and it's not based on feelings. Okay. Like sometimes we don't feel very anointed, we get our ups and our downs, but it's not based on that. Okay, it's not based on feelings, and we're going to speak on that this morning. But let me start off with a question this morning. I want to ask you, who of you believe in Jesus?
Oh,
you do. Okay, so are you sure? Are you sure?
yes.
Okay. So we believe in Jesus,
Yeah.
okay? And you say you're sure. You're really sure.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. That's good if you believe. Because in John 14:12, now we must understand Jesus is the truth.
Amen.
Amen. He is the truth. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." So if the truth speaks, what he says is truth. Okay? And it is absolute truth.
Amen.
Now here Jesus, the truth, is saying, he repeats himself twice. He says, "Truly, truly I say to you." Now, if the truth really emphasizes it twice by saying truly, truly, then you must know this is definitely truth. And I believe there's a reason why he repeats it, because he understands the enemy doesn't want us to get this and have this revelation. So he says, "Truly, truly I tell you, he that believes in me, the works that I do, you will do also, and greater works." Okay? So Jesus says, the works that you've seen me doing, you will also do it. You see, and this is the thing where what I'm going to speak on this morning is, a lot of times we hear that and we're like, "Who, me? Jesus? Me? Come on, like, do you know me? Jesus, you've seen me in the week, what how I've messed up here and there, and how sometimes I slip up, sometimes I still fall, sometimes I still get angry, sometimes
Amen.
I mean, we look at ourselves and our shortcomings and we think, but no, I'm like, are you sure, Jesus? Are you really sure you're talking to me here? Okay? So, now I said here, the reason why he emphasizes is because he clearly knew that this is an area that people are going to struggle with. Okay, that's why Jesus really repeats it. He says, "Truly, truly I tell you, the works I do, you will do also." Now he himself was tempted in the desert on his identity. There's one thing the enemy came to him and says, "Listen, if you are the Son of God, prove it. Like, if you are." Okay, so that's the seed of doubt he wanted is on his identity of what he can do. Now, if you read that statement, what Jesus says, it's interesting. He only makes one prerequisite. There's only one condition he puts on doing the same things as him and greater. Only one. And that is belief. He says, if you believe. Okay, now all of us say we believe in him. So let that just sink in. we all believe in him. And Jesus says, if you believe, if that's you, then you'll do the same works. So ever say that qualifies me. So I'm qualified to do the supernatural. Okay? So he only gives one prerequisite for doing what he did and greater. He says, "He who believes in me." That's the only thing.
Amen.
That's the only thing. Okay? You see, a lot of times, I think what we do is we look at people like the great men of faith. We look at the Smith Wigglesworth. We look at or maybe people today, we look at, let's say, a Benny Hinn or a person like that, and we're thinking, yes, Benny Hinn will do the same works as Jesus and greater, but that's for him, that's not for me. I'm just the little guy here in the bottom, like he's the great man of God, the one that God has called, anointed, appointed to do all these things and show signs, wonders, and miracles, but that's not for me. No, that's just for him. A lot of people reason like that. It's like, but Jesus says no. The thing is, whoever believes. You see, we look at men like that and we think, okay, well, Jesus, that's him. Like he's fasted or like, what did I write here? He says, I haven't like soaked in the presence for the last 30 years and spent 8 hours a day on my knees like him, you know, so I can understand he can do it, but what about me? But you see, Jesus never said he that fasted for so long, or he that's been a Christian for 30 years or 40 years and knows, can quote all the whole Bible out by head. There was no prerequisite. He that speaks in tongues the whole day, he that does this, he that feels. No, he said, he who believes.
Amen.
Come on, that's the only that's the only condition he said to doing the same works as him is belief. It's got nothing to do with those other things are great, but that's not the thing he said that will cause us to do the greater thing, the same things as him. The only thing he says believe. Now, why that's so amazing is if we look at who he said it to, okay, to who did he make that promise to? So I said here, yeah, listen, you might be a brand new Christian. You might feel inadequate. You might feel, well, I'm not like those men. I mean, I don't know my word. Whatever excuse you can think of, okay? Whatever excuse. Listen, we're all different and we all have our own excuses. The one guy, like the one will say, oh, I don't know, I can't speak. I'm an introvert. Like, listen, I'm an introvert. Or, you know, we've got all these excuses. I've also had many excuses and thinking, you know, because you kind of disqualify yourself. You say, well, I don't know if that's me, if I can do these things. Okay? But Jesus says no, if you believe. That's the only thing. So it doesn't matter what. One of the things I used to use always was, yeah, I don't come out of a background where I've been seen. You know, I come from a very traditional kind of background. So, and then I almost use that to disqualify myself. I'm like, well, I'm not like these guys that's been like in the move of the Holy Spirit. Like, all, you know, I come from my quiet, I don't really know these weird, like, for me it was weird. I mean, the first time I got into churches where the move of the Spirit and things and supernatural things, it was totally weird for me. And it took me now years to adapt, but, you know, it's almost like you can even use that as an excuse. Listen, we can use many excuses. Where you say, well, that's not for me, that's for the pastor, or that's for the leader, that's not for me. Okay, and people use these excuses. But this morning I want to look at, in the Hebrew tradition, you see, I wrote here, none of these excuses disqualify you. I want you to hear none of that. It doesn't matter what excuse you use, it doesn't disqualify you, because that wasn't the thing that Jesus said is needed. He said it's only belief. Okay? Now in their tradition, I just want to jump ahead of myself. Let me just see. I wrote here, what should happen is we should look at these men of God and we should look at them and say, man, if they can do it, then I can also do it.
Yeah.
Because we need to realize there's nothing else that credits me to do them except believing in Jesus. The reason they've been walking the road of believing in, they just believe in Jesus. That's why they do the things they do. You know, we need to realize I need to look at them and say, man, if he can do it, then I can do it. Because the same Christ that's in him is in me. The same Jesus that's doing it through him can do it through me. Okay? So it should actually inspire us. We should celebrate what God is doing in the man of God. And I believe that's why God raises up great men of God, like the Smith Wigglesworth, like these guys throughout history that's like just walking in the incredible miraculous, so that people can look at them and say, hey man, wow, is that what God can do through a person? And then say, man, then I also want that. I also want to glorify God as much in my life and touch people's lives and see these things, you know. I do think one of the things for walking in this is a hunger. You know, Peter, when he was about to step out of the boat and he asked Jesus to call him, I mean, first of all, there was a hunger for it. The others just sat and said nothing, but he said, hey, Jesus, I want that. I want to do that. I want to do what you do. Okay? So there needs to be a hunger, but man, it's for everyone. Okay? Now, like I said, that was, I believe, is God's intent for putting people there, so that He can inspire the others. I remember years ago, this morning we were chatting, there was a guy ministering in Strand, and he was also, you know, as he was going through the prayer line, he was praying and healing, praying for people to be healed, people get healed, and he prophesies and do those things. And then he would look at the people there, and he would ask the question. I remember that day specifically, you know, it just struck me as much because he was like looking directly at me, and he's like, what's the difference between me and you? And he says, nothing. You know, nothing. And I took that because I realized, yes, what is the difference? You know, what's amazing, if you go to these great men of God that's there that's doing these things, and you spend one-on-one time with them, then you realize they're just as normal people as you and me.
Amen.
They're just as down to earth. They're just as, you know, they are amazing. But they're just such normal people. And they've also got their struggles. They've also got their doubts. They also got their, but they just chose, hey man, I believe in what he said. And I'll step out on it, you know.
Amen.
So it's nothing else. And we so easily disqualify ourselves. But if you realize, yeah, God can do it through anyone. Amen. So, now the same mentality, what I'm talking about, people also struggled with in Jesus' time. Okay?
Amen.
And I'm going to read, go with me to Mark 4, and we're going to read it. Mark 4. Okay, Mark 4 from verse 35. It says, and the same day, when the evening was come, he said unto them, let us pass over to the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there was also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part or the back part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they woke him up and said unto him, Master, don't you care that we perish? And he arose and he rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said one to another, what manner of man is this, that even the wind and the waves or the sea obey him? Okay, so what I want you to see is they're in this situation, they're busy drowning, they fear that they're busy drowning, and they panic and they say, they wake Jesus up. They say, Lord, don't you care? So they go and they reach out to Jesus and they ask him in distress to do something, and he's like, okay, and he stands up and he rebukes the sea. But then afterwards, and then there's a great calm, but afterwards he tells them and he says, but why are you fearful? Point number one. And point number two, why don't you have faith? You see, because you realize they believe that Jesus can do it. I mean, they had no problem knowing that if we wake up Jesus and we ask him to do it, he's going to ask the Father, and the Father is going to respond, and it's going to happen. Okay? He can help us in this situation. But they didn't believe the same about them. You see, they believed Jesus can do it, but they couldn't see that. And this is what Jesus wanted. He says, listen, do you hear? He wants them to start to operate. He wanted them to do something. He's like, why? He says, because they could easily believe it's for Jesus. You see, it's almost that same kind of mentality. You know, today we sit with the same. Like people don't take John 14:12 and say, well, I can do the same things as. They don't believe it, and they say, well, I can't do it. Let me go to someone else because, they've got it. And it's like, no, have faith. Okay, so now interesting, in the Hebrew tradition, they would send all the kids from small. They would go to like Hebrew school and they would teach them the word, and they needed to recite the first couple of books, and they would, off by head, they learned to recite it. Okay, this was just the way in those times where they did it. So they would recite the word, and then they would choose the best ones out of them. Like the rabbis would go and choose the guys that really stand out, that really doing well, and they would take them one side and say, okay, the rest can go on. I mean, they can do whatever profession they want, but these guys are the special ones. And then I believe, like, they are called. It's almost like, you know, like they're special, they're called, but they just take the best out of the best. Okay? The rest will go on and do other things, and that's good. But they were looking for specific people that they would say, okay. And when a rabbi calls you in those times, they would say, come follow me. It was kind of like a term that meant come and follow me. So you become his disciple, you become his follower, and the idea is he sees the potential in you to become just like him and to do the same works that he does. Okay, so it was like if a rabbi comes to you and say, hey man, out of all these I've chosen you because I see this potential in you, man. I know with a little bit of training, you know, you can go on, you can be like this, and you can. So it was about seeing potential and saying, I call you to be my follower, to be just like me. Okay, I'm going to teach you to walk in my ways, and you're going to like become. So this is very interesting, because now you see Jesus going to his disciples, to normal fishermen. And the fact that they were in other professions, fishermen, tax collectors, being, you know, medicine students, whatever. Lingy is not here this one, but come on, whatever is. Those, in other words, those were the guys when they were young, they weren't chosen. Like they went on to do other stuff. And here Jesus is saying, hey, and he uses the same thing, he says, follow me. In other words, I see in you the potential to be just like me, to become just like me, and to do the things that I'm doing. Come on, that's what Jesus told them in John 14. If you believe, you'll do the same things as me. And he's saying this to normal guys. Listen, he's saying these to the guys that were not chosen. In other words, no rabbi in those times thought any one of these can make it. Otherwise, they would have been probably rabbis or whatever. Because they were the ones that weren't chosen. Okay, and that's like today. So, in other words, they weren't the popular guys that would have been chosen for ministry, if I can put it that way. And Jesus comes to them and says, hey man, you're going to do the same works that I do if you believe. You can do the same works as me. You see, we come up with so many excuses, but Jesus didn't go to the best of the best. He went to the guys, the unknown, the guys that thinks they're not qualified. Jesus says, hey, you can, if you believe, you'll do the same things. Okay? So everybody say there's no excuse. Okay. So tell the guy next to you, you can do it.
You can do it.
You can do it. Jesus goes to these nobodies and he says, follow me. Which doesn't only mean come and, you know, walk with me, but what it actually means is I see in you the ability to do what I do. So he went to the people that, according to everyone else's opinion, wasn't even called to ministry, if I can put it that way. Now look at Peter. Now I want you to think, I mean, if you think of Peter, he was like very zealous, but sometimes he'll like act before, it's almost like he acts before he thinks, you know, it's like, but think of him as a personality type. I mean, just imagine yourself and put yourself in his shoes and think like that's you. You know, you're like very zealous and you do things. I mean, I'm sure throughout his life, many times people had to put him in place. If you can, you know, I'm sure even his parents or whatever. I mean, I can just imagine growing up every now and then they say, "Hey, Peter," like just, you know, because it's just his personality type. And so growing up with that mentality, this is now Peter. And so now, yeah, go with me to Matthew 4. I'm sure Peter must have also thought, like who, me? You hear what I'm saying? Like, am I really qualified? Okay, so now when Jesus walks in on the water, I want you to go there. That is Let's go read. Go with me to Matthew 14. Matthew 14. You see, I want this morning you to hear that, we come up with many excuses, but we are qualified. You are qualified. I don't care who you are. You are qualified. If you believe in Jesus, you are qualified.
Amen.
Okay? Matthew 14 verse 22. He says, let's read from verse 22. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship. I just want to see till where I want to go. Okay. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. Okay, so there was a strong wind, but now the ship is already in the middle of the sea, and Jesus is still on the shore. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. Yes, I can imagine that must have been quite a sight. Imagine you're in the middle of the sea, and here comes a guy walking on water. Okay. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit." And they cried out for fear. It was a fear.
Fear.
Listen, they weren't like, in this moment, they got a fright of their lives. Because here's someone walking on the water, and I mean, I can just imagine. Okay, they weren't in a very full of faith, anointing feeling, and that's where we're going later. Is it's not based on feeling. They weren't like really feeling very. I don't think they really felt very full of faith in that moment as well. Okay, it says they cried out in fear, but straightway Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid." Okay, and Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it be you, bid me to come unto thee on the water." Listen, for us, I mean, you might think, man, this is a crazy, yes, Jesus walking, but now you ask him to tell you, because you also want to now walk on water. I mean, that is a faith step. That's like, man, Jesus, if you can do it, then I can also do it. You see his whole mentality, because he knew Jesus called him and said, "Follow me." It's like, it's like that whole mentality of I'm following, when he says you'll do the same works, he had this expectation that, man, if Jesus can do it, something in him said, man, if he can do it, then I can also do it. You see, and that's the kind of mentality we need to get. Because that's what Jesus said. He said, what I do, you will also do. So we need to get that mentality. Man, if he did it, then I can also do it. Okay? He can do it through me. It's the same spirit, same Jesus. Okay? So he says, and Peter answered and said, "If it be you, bid me to come unto thee on the water." And he said, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Huh? We always talk about how, and then afterwards he looked at the waves and, he fell. But I mean, in that moment, he also walked on water. I mean, wow. Okay. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and he began to sink. He cried, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" So it's like, yes, you started right. You can walk on water, but now why did you start doubting? Okay? Yeah. So the whole time you see, Jesus wanted them to, to follow, to start doing these things. Because he taught them, listen, you'll lay hands on the sick, you'll do all these things. Because he wanted to train them to start walking in these things. Okay? Amen. So, and just the fact that I can imagine, he's like, he must have gone through that thing, man, am I really worthy to do this? Like me? But in that moment, it's like, Lord, call me, Tell me to come. Okay. So, like I said, nothing disqualifies us. I want to tell you, nothing disqualifies you to walk in the super. Nothing. Just take that step of faith. You know, just take a step of faith. And then with that, this is the second part I want to speak about, is one of the biggest things that sometimes stop us from doing the supernatural, and that is feelings. Feelings. I believe some of the biggest things is feelings. Okay, because we don't always feel supernatural. We don't always feel anointed. We don't always feel a tingling or trumpets blowing or something that wakes you up and say, hey, you the man, you can do it. Come on, we don't always feel these things. And on Wednesday, but now this is what I want you to get. On Wednesday evening, I shared a little bit, just my own testimony of encounters I had with the supernatural. Now, I'm not talking about I'm talking about incidents. I'm not talking about prophetic or someone giving you a word or something. I'm talking about those incidents that you know, that's life-changing. You know this was supernatural. You can't explain. It was just, it blew you away. Okay, now, one of the first, now, there's many more, but I'm just like taking, for time's sake, just maybe 2-3 experiences, okay? One of the first I can remember, which some of you might also had the same experience, is I can remember years ago, there was a guy preaching. Now, me coming from my background, you must understand the supernatural and everything was for me at that stage very strange. And there was a guy who was preaching, and the evening he asked, he's going to pray for people for tongues. You know, if you want to speak in tongues, you've never done it before, he's going to pray for people to receive if you want it. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm sitting there with my background. I have never heard what tongues is. I think I heard the term tongues twice in my life by that time. I think once there was like a school camp, children came back and the Holy Spirit just broke out. They didn't know what to do. They were just laughing and rolling, and people were getting drunk, like at a traditional church camp. Like they didn't know what to do, but it just happened spontaneously. Like God just started, and then some of the kids were speaking in tongues. That's once I heard about it, okay? Another time I was once in a service and there was a guy standing up speaking tongues, and you know, but for me it was weird. Like I was like, is this guy speaking some other language, you know? But I didn't know it was tongues. Only later my parents or someone explained to me, you know, what it was. So that was my background on tongues. When I came that evening, the guy asks, okay, so now I'm standing there in the front, and I can remember we were like, there was this prayer line forming, and I thought by myself, first of all, I thought, yeah, right, as if something's going to happen, okay? And then, I was doubting it. I'm like, but okay. Or then I thought, the other thought was, I'm 10 to 1 going to stand here, and the only one that's nothing's going to happen to. You know, everyone's going to speak in tongues, so I'm going to look like a fool. I'm just going to stand here, nothing's going to happen. That was my thought. I'm just being honest. That was what I was thinking when I was standing there. But then I thought, okay, let me just get serious. And so I was worshiping. Now I remember the pastor came, or one of the, he was like the youth pastor at the time, came to me and stood behind me, and he said, listen, do you know what to expect? And I'm like, no, I don't have a clue. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. He's like, no, don't worry. You just focus on God, as the worship music's playing. You just keep on just worshiping Him. And the pastor's going to pray for you guys. Say pray over you. And, you know, if you suddenly hear a funny sound or something in your mind, just start speaking. You know, it's going to come, but then you must just speak it. I'm like, okay. You know, now I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, let me get serious. But I can remember I told God then, I said, listen, God, I'm not going to make up anything. Like, I want to know this is from you. That was the wrong thing to say, but anyway. The next moment, I'm still standing there, and I can remember, you know, suddenly this thought comes, and I'm like, whoa, but then the power of God hits me. I mean, like, I've shocked with electricity before, but, you know, that day, it was like times 10 what I've ever felt. I remember when I was young, my father was outside Ryan one day, and I was holding a lamp to keep the light for him, and that thing malfunctioned or something, so it shocked me. But it was so strong, you know, when you, I don't know if you've ever shot, but like where the current is so strong you can't let the thing loose. It's almost like it holds you. Okay. But that night was 10 times like that. Okay, it felt like I had my fingers, I can't explain it, it felt like my fingers went, I went shaking like crazy. I freaked out everyone. Like, I'm a very calm, reserved guy. That day I was shaking, I was crying, I was speaking in tongues, I couldn't stop for a couple of minutes. But man, the power of God hit me. It's like heat coming over me, electricity throughout. So that's like okay, after that I've had similar many experiences where someone in the church, you just walk up and suddenly that same power will come over you like, okay, let me just sit, like I can't even walk up to the front without anyone touching you, with the presence just touch you. I mean, I can keep on and on and on of all these experiences. But now I've had other experiences as well. Let's say one evening I remember years ago, we were in Belleville. You still remember the Belleville church? Were you? No. Okay, anyway, in the Belleville church, we were there with, it was just a normal Sunday. There was worship playing. They were busy worshiping. Nothing strange, nothing weird. And as we were worshiping, I was standing there and suddenly, it's like someone punches me in the stomach. Like I can imagine a big guy standing like a rugby player or whatever, like with full force hitting me in the stomach. I was standing there and I went, like, all of a sudden, like this thing hit me. When I looked, the guy next to me was like 3 chairs back. He fell. He was like, doof. Okay, so that's kind of, I would say, an experience where you experience something physical, that, you had that experience. And man, those kind of things are life-changing. I remember times I would be in worship in church here in Durbanville, and I can remember, like, one evening I was worshiping and I felt like someone like this, like really like tapping me to tell me something urgent or whatever, and I looked and there's no one, and those are the kind of experiences where, like, and I shared some other ones, where we were once we were at a friend's house, and we were just having coffee with him, and then suddenly there came like I can't explain, like a wind or something into the room, a massive noise. We were talking and the thing went right past me at the back. It changed direction, it went down his passageway. And you were also there, we were all standing there having coffee, man, just chilling on a Friday night or whatever in his house. And suddenly this thing happened, and me and him, immediately we follow the direction, and we're like, and then we freak out, we're like, what was that? It was crazy. Till this, and then for years I couldn't explain. That was one of those experiences I couldn't explain. It's like, what was that? And I remember years later, I think there was like someone preaching by us, and he read out of the word, where it says, I make my angels wings. And, and I was like, hey man, that was probably an angel. Come on, but you have these supernatural, you get these experience, or where you feel tingly, or you feel the fire, or you feel something. But now this is what I want to say. Although I've had all these experiences, if I look at every time God has done something like supernatural, I want to almost say like 99.99% of those times when I saw miracles happen, I didn't feel anything. You see, what I want to try and tell you, it's not based on feelings. A lot of times, feelings, stuff happen, and our emotions gets influenced. But it's not based on feelings. Come on, you are known according to the Spirit. It's not based. The times I've really seen miraculous, like creative miracles happen, I'm telling you, I didn't feel a thing. Last time when we prayed for his finger to come out, that evening we saw his finger grow, I didn't feel a thing. You hear what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, is this okay, let's just pray. You don't feel anything, but anyway, you step out and you just do it. And it happens. And through the years, I've realized those feelings times, it's amazing to have these experiences with God. But when it comes to walking in the supernatural, you don't need to feel, you don't need feelings. Because it's not based on feelings. Because if I look back and I'm honest with myself and I look at every time God has done miracles, I don't feel anything in that moment. I'm not saying you don't have to, but I'm just saying, you get what I'm saying? Don't base it on feelings. Okay, don't base it on feelings. Okay. And we're going to look at some scriptures now. Let me just see. Jesus didn't say, those that rattle and shake under the power of God will do the same works as me and greater. He didn't say those that see open visions and have angelic throne room encounters will do the same things. He didn't say, and then you can add whatever else you can feel and think about. He said those that believe. Okay? It's based on belief. He said those that believe. And then he says in one place, he says, as the Father hath sent me, I send you. The same way. In other words, just as empowered, just as anointed, he says, I send you to do the same works that I've done. Come on, so there we already have like 3 times or more than what where Jesus said the same thing. He says, you will do what I do, the same works. Okay? But he didn't, he says, as the Father sent me, I also sent you. He didn't add, if you feel it. Come on, now he does here in scripture say, man, if you feel it, if you get goosebumpy, if you... No, it's based on faith. It's not based on, okay? So I've said here, although I've had many feel encounters in my life, the biggest miracles that God ever performed through me was when I didn't feel anything. You know, I remember once we were at the kids' church and there was like, I think, probably 15 of them that wanted prayer for physical. Like the one had his arm in a cast, the one had his fingers taped up, the one had middle ear infection, the other one scratched, you know, like everyone had something physical wrong with them. And I remember that day again, I didn't feel anything. And I prayed for them and everyone was miraculously healed at once. Everyone, instantly. I mean, but kids are honest. Listen, I've prayed for a kid. I ask him, are you better? He's like, no. I ask him again. Then I pray again, do you feel better? No. You know, they are honest. So anyway, that day I saw 100% miracles and I'm like, I didn't feel anything. Okay?
Yeah.
God doesn't want us to walk according to feelings, but according to faith. I want to say that again. God doesn't want us to walk according to feelings, but according to faith. The good news is you don't need to feel supernatural to be supernatural. Now, when Jesus multiplied the food, if you go to that story, you know, how many people? There was what, 5,000 or something in the multitude that he needed to feed, you know, the fish and the bread. And what? Yeah, just the men. Just the men. Come on, 5,000. Listen, have you ever been in a camp or where you need to feed people? Go away for a weekend. I mean, we've had camps with youth, then there's 100 kids or something. There's a lot of food you need to make for 100 kids. We're not talking about 100 here. We're talking about 5,000. Just the men. That's a stadium full of people that needs feeding. What do they have? A couple of bread, fish, one small boy's lunchbox. But now, interesting, if you go read there, it says, and Jesus said, feed them. And he asked them, so how are we going to feed them? And then it says in the one, it says, he said this to test them. Come on, like I can just see Jesus like having a bit of a smile on his face and like, so how are we going to feed them? And it says it was about the 3rd day or something, so the people are getting hungry. And Jesus, because of his compassion, is like, yo man, we need to feed these guys. So then he tells his disciples, hey, feed them. Now, listen. I can promise you in that moment, they didn't feel very anointed. They didn't feel, here's a miracle coming. They didn't even know something's going to, they only afterwards, just by being obedient and stepping out on his word. And afterwards they're like, hey, like we just witnessed a massive miracle. And we were the ones part of it. Jesus didn't touch the stuff. He said, you do it. They were the ones dishing out. It happens literally in their hands as they were walking out on the word, stepping out just in obedience, just stepping out. I'm sure they didn't feel very in that moment. They didn't feel very, yeah, it was just obedience, just stepping out. You see, because they stepped out anyway. You know, that's what I've seen so many times in my life. When, even the times when I don't feel very anointed to go pray for someone, especially those times, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to step out anyway. Those are the times, because it's not based on feelings. Okay? So I want us to go and end with, let's go to Judges, the book of Judges. Okay, I'm ending with this book of Judges, Judges 6. Okay, let's just read from verse 6. It says, "And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I brought you out from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all that oppress you. And I drove them out from before you, and gave you their land. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in which land you dwell. But you have not obeyed my voice. And there came an angel of the Lord, and sat under an oak." Okay, so he went to sit under a tree, which was in Oprah, that pertained unto Joash the Abizarite. And his son Gideon, threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. Okay, so here we find Gideon, he's busy threshing wheat in a winepress, which already sounds strange because that's not usually what you do. But to hide it from the Midianites. Okay? So he was hiding. Come on, he was afraid. He was like hiding. He was in a place of hiding, afraid. Come on, do you think he really felt very powerful in that moment? Do you think on his feelings, based on his feelings, he felt very, strong? No. But now listen to what it says here in verse 12. "And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him, and said unto him, The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Okay. The Lord is with you. Ever say the Lord is with me?
The Lord is with me.
You know, there's a scripture, it says, and Jesus went on doing good, and and it says because God was with him.
Amen.
That's only because God was with him. Okay. So here we find Gideon, and the angel comes and says, angel of the Lord comes and says, "You're a mighty man of valor." He doesn't feel like that at the moment, but that's what God says. And Gideon said unto him, "O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where are all the miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, Did not the Lord bring us out from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us, and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites." And the Lord looked upon him, and said, "Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee?" And he said unto him, "O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh." Do you hear the excuses? "Lord, help me, I can't. My family is poor, and I am the least in my father's house." Come on, the least. But how does he see him? He said, "No, you're a mighty man of valor." Okay, and the Lord said unto him, "Surely I will be with you, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as of one man." I love this. It's like that he comes to him and says, "You're a mighty man of valor," and then suddenly he's got all these excuses. He's like, "Look, but I'm like this, I'm like, oh, I can't." He's like, "Yeah, but I called you." "No, but I can't, because I'm like the least, and I'm like the this." And then it's like, his only answer on that is, no, I'm with you. Come on, that's enough. Just, I'm with you. It's enough. Just know I'm with you. He doesn't answer him on any of his other, his answer is just, I'm with you. Come on, I love that about God sometimes. Like, you come with all your complaints, it's just like one sentence, hey, I'm with you. That's all you need. And he said unto him, if now I've found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that he talk with me. And now you can read the rest of the chapter and then next. It's amazing. Now he goes into this thing of, now he wants a cake to be baked, a certain, and then he goes into, he asks for the fleece. He's going to put a fleece out, and then if it rains on it, then it's a sign. And then once God does it, it's like, okay, but let me just check again. Let me put it again out, and then all these doubt, all these things. And God says, okay, man, I'm with you. I'm with you. Don't doubt. I'm with you.
Wow.
So this morning, I just want to encourage you. Listen, if you read all these men in the Bible, in the Old, just think of how many excuses they come up with. Everyone had an excuse. Like, I can't talk. I'm not worthy. I'm not this. I'm not that. Come on, think about the excuses we have. Think of the excuses, and it's not based on feelings. Again, did it look like he felt very empowered at that stage? It doesn't look like he really felt he can do it. But God says, no, I'm with you. He says it's not based on feelings. And this is what I want you. Come on, this morning before church, you shared with me like what you say. You woke up yesterday, you didn't feel very.
This morning.
Or this morning.
This morning.
You see this morning. You see this message is for this morning. Come on. This morning we sit with people that saying, hey man, I woke up this morning. I didn't really feel like I feel I need a bit of encouragement. I feel like. Come on, this morning the word to you is, it's not based on feelings. It's not based on feelings. And God says you are called to do the supernatural. You can do the things that Jesus said you will do. He said, listen, don't listen to feelings. Don't listen to feelings. If we need to go according to feelings, I think just half of the time we won't even take a step of faith because we'll be too afraid, we'll be too discouraged, we won't think. If it goes on feelings, no man. There's going to be days you feel great, but there's going to be days you don't feel so great. Don't go on feelings. God says, listen, I don't need your feelings to align. I just need you to take a step of faith and be available. And you'll see, and you will do the same. So everyone say, I'm qualified.
I'm qualified.
I'm more than qualified.
More than qualified.
In one place, Jesus asked them, he says, who do you say I am? And then they say, well, some say you're a prophet, some say you're Elijah, some say this. And then he says, but who do you say I am? And then Peter's like, but you are the Christ. You are the Christ. And then he says, flesh and blood did not reveal this, but my Father which is in heaven. And then he says, and upon this revelation I will build my church. On who I am. on you, and I'm the Christ. But if you take that and you realize, listen, if you realize this morning, I want to just end with this. If you realize who you are, Christ in you. Christ wasn't Jesus' last name. It wasn't like Jesus and his surname is Christ. He was Christ because it's the Holy Spirit that made him Christ. He's the Messiah, the Word that became flesh. Okay, the Word that became flesh. But now it's Christ in us. Come on, so where's our excuse? There is no excuse. I once said, listen, and I want you to get this. Look at Jesus. See, as long as he was focused on Jesus, he could walk on the water. As long as he was looking and saying, man, he wasn't focused on the storm and what's going on. As long as he was just focused on Jesus, only on Jesus and what Jesus said, man, he was walking on water. He was doing the same that Jesus did because his focus was only on Jesus. Not on feelings, not on what. The moment he looked away from Jesus and he started, then the fear and the feelings came and suddenly he's like, ooh. Okay, so this morning, I just believe there's a word for them. Look away from feelings. Look away. You don't have to feel it to be it. Amen. Amen. But yeah, I think you can stop there.